What is your guess? I can't go into that store ever again. Story do barbershops. Count decided to get a haircut whilst having a cold sneeze and farted at the same time. Never went back. Oh god, I finally have a reason to share this story. One of the first jobs I had, I approached my boss in his office to discuss a report. As I was standing near him, he was sitting in his chair reading the file on his desk. I felt a sneeze come on. Knowing that I didn't have time to grab a tissue, I just turned away from him. However, the sneeze held off. That the gas in my stomach did not. I crop dusted the poor man. Embarrassed, I whipped my body back around to face him, and the centripetal force of my motion must have knocked my sinuses loose. I sneezed upon completing the spin, but was in too much shock to cover my face. I gave my boss both an aura of noxious odor and mucus spewed across his face. I'm at a coffee shop. Have a glass of coffee in front of me, filled to the top. That sheet is almost overflowing. I raised my hand to get the waitress' attention because I want to order something else. I accidentally whack the sheet out of the glass. This sends it flying across the room, where it hits the waitress on the thigh and gets coffee ducking everywhere. Felt bad, so I left and never went back. My girlfriend fist bumped the clerk when he was actually reaching to grab a paper we had just signed. Anyway, we don't go to that tire kingdom anymore. I fist bumped a cashier at a grocery store a couple days ago. He was just handing me my change. Never buying groceries again. It brings up dark memories. Went on a first date with this girl to a new restaurant in town. She proceeded to get sloppy drunk and made a huge scene. From the classic could not control the volume of her voice to insisting on trying to show me and some other gentleman nearby what kind of underwear she had on, while loudly insisting that she's a good girl. Though the server we had seemed to get that I was not a willing part of this, but I was so mortified there's no way I'd ever go back. I sat on a Target shelf and the entire row of shelves crashed down onto the ground. I went to buy groceries almost daily, always in the same store. Most of the time only one checkout lane was open, and there was always this really friendly older lady there. She would always make small talk with me and compare me to her son. After a few years of this, I moved a bit farther away, but never told her, so I just didn't show up anymore. Now I won't ever go back there because I feel ashamed I didn't tell her and just abandoned her in 1983 at age 17. I went into a pharmacy. I bought something and somehow I was given 50p. Too much change. I didn't say anything and left. To this day I've still not gone back. I have felt guilty ever since. I tripped up over my shoelace and crashed into a shelf and broke it. The manager chased me out of the store. I guess you must have been young if you were an older lady. They might have been worried about you being injured or something. I was 14, so yeah, a friend was getting married and asked me to make her wedding dress. We went to a fabric store to check out our options and get swatches. She asked to use the shop's bathroom. A few minutes later she walked out quickly and whispered to me, "We need to get the duck out here now." Turns out she had explosive diarrhea and absolutely destroyed the bathroom. Neither of us have been back. I was in Walmart and had to readjust, so I kindly just shoved my hands down the front of my parents while the vet tech from the vet's office sight of my dogs to walk by making eye contact with me. Never saw him again after that. The one night stand I guess did 2 weeks before turned out to be my waitress on my date. Never went to shenanigans again. I was once shopping for a new dress in Nicole's. I want to say it was for a wedding or something. I am not a dress person, so I brought my mom with me to help me pick out a dress. I dress well, but I just don't like to wear dresses. And the dresses at the time were not meant for girls with big box. Everything seemed to have a structured bust that my bobs would not fit in, and if it fit my bobs, it was massive in the waist. There was no good bust to waist ratio on anything that I tried on, and anything that didn't have a structured bust looked like I was wearing a potato sack. I must have tried on 20 dresses, and after about the 10th it just became comical. My mom and I were laughing so hard at how awful every dress looked on me, or how my bobs were about to explode out of them. I finally tried on a ruffled floral one that wasn't structured and had a waist belt. My mom blank stared at me for a second and said, "You look like a waitress at the apple barn," and burst into laughter. I could not catch my breath when my mom starts laughing really hard. Have had turtles into her shoulders and her eyes disappear, and she looks ridiculous when she gets like that. I have to get away from her, or there is a 100% chance that I will pee on myself. from also laughing too hard. Even if I look away, I can still hear her and I know what she looks like while laughing. Well, there was nowhere to go. I wound up being through my underwear in the corner of the fitting room while begging her to stop laughing. We promptly left and I've never been back. Found out my stalker worked there. Sounds like you turned the tables. Under I walked in, saw him, said nope, outly, then walked back out. When I was 10, me and my mother were came out school shopping. I was trying on clothes in the changing room when all of a sudden I really had to farts. I left the room and while walking I let it rip. What I didn't see, there was employee bent down doing something and that fart hit her right in the face. When I realized, I ran out of the store scared to go back for years. You know how in department stores when they have one of those display bathrooms, they have that piece of plexiglass that goes across the toilet that says something along the lines of not a real toilet, don't be an idiot and pee in this. Those barriers didn't exist in the 80s. When I was a young kid, mom looked up and saw me with my panties off, holding my dress above my waist and sprinting for the toilet. She did not catch me in time. Growing up, I had horrible separation anxiety. One time in a neighboring city, me and my parents stopped at a restaurant to get something to eat. After eating, I got up to go to the bathroom, assuming at least one of my parents would wait at the table for me. Unknown to me, my mom went to the bathroom after me and my dad had walked out to pull up the car to pick us up at the door. I came out before my mom didn't see them at the table. This lead to a massive meltdown. A guy walked into Kroger, grabbed a roll of toilet paper, and wiped his ass in the middle of an aisle. Then he went into the store next door and called the pasty white manager a dirty Mexican. Now he can't go into stores. Jessop's in the UK had staff who only talked to my male partner, although he had no interest or knowledge in photography, and I was the one asking questions about the camera lenses on sale. They are no longer in business. We got a nail cooked into our pizza, not a fingernail. A construction. Now I was in a clothing store and on the phone, just browsing through clothing without really paying attention. Sometime into my conversation, I realized I was in the ladies' underwear section, flipping through yoga pants or something. Speed walked straight out of there. I was with a group of friends in a very quiet store. We were slowly leaving one by one through the double glass doors. One of it was closed to the other stayed opened. I somehow thought the closed door was opened and vice versa, so I walked smack into the middle of the closed glass door. My face was imprinted on it. I guess my face was very oily. My friends and the shopkeeper came rushing to see if I was okay. Then all marveled at my squashed face imprint. I left quickly. Every time I walk past that shop, I make sure I am looking down or at the other side in case the staff recognized my face. I got kicked out of a bar because I insulted the bartender for her inability to properly read my very valid ID. When I was 21, she said you should get a new ID. And I said you should get new glasses. Then she told me to finish my drink and leave. Edit. Also, someone else ordered me the drink, got caught stealing. I then told the manager, "Are you hiring?" His face reaction was priceless. Store clerk very nicely asked me if she could help me find something. My awkward self just went nope, turned 180 degrees, and left. Haven't been back since. 7 to 11 down the street from me sold me spoiled milk multiple times, so I complained. She said it spoiled in the car ride home. 5 minutes way in the dead of winter. Coles. When I have around 7, my mother, sister, and I had done there to do some shopping for an upcoming birthday. During this time I have very shy. Even within my own family, maybe because they left me alone for 6 years in Mexico. How nose pointed. I did ask for sheet and didn't like talking or bothering them. I also had never been to this store, so eventually I needed to take a massive sheet, but I didn't say anything. I ended up shooting myself and walked around with him for like 20 minutes with sheet in my pants. They eventually questioned the lingering smell and found out I then had my first time going commando. Now whenever I see a Kohl's, it brings back bad memories, and I refused to go to one. I was leaving New Orleans, headed back to Mississippi, where I lived at the time. I stopped at a gas station to fuel up and get a snack. I was cordial with the curly blonde hair cashier checking me out, but realized she wasn't responding to my statements. I asked her a question and she said nothing. Now I'm paying attention. I looked at her hardened face, pursed lips, and aggressive demeanor, and then it dawned on me she'd love to be nice and cordial with me, but she couldn't because she couldn't see past my skin color. Well, I guess I can't go back into that store. Ever again used to go to West Corner. Shop after school for years to buy some sweets. Once I walked in and I saw a couple buy some white powder over the counter, ran out the shop and didn't have the gonads to go back unless I was with friends. Counted my money wrong. My bill crossed my limit for over 100 zeden. Needed to scan everything again to hit how much I had. Never stepped into that store again. Edit. Hey, basically I had less than what I needed because I miscounted my money back at home and bought too much things. What forced the cashier to do everything over, since there was too many items to just cancel them one by one. The line behind me was rather long. Not native English speaker to me. My original comment makes perfect sense though. I went into a local beauty product store. Everything is made locally by out his abs. It's all very conscious blah blah. I had never been in before and I was looking for a serum or cream to help minimize eye wrinkles. I found a product. One of the salespeople talked up small 0.75 ounce bottle, then went to the counter to pay. That'll be $135.50, said the salesperson. Oh hell. No, 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 thank you. I don't care about my eyes that much. I blurted out before I even knew what I was saying. I turned on a heel and left the shop and never went back. It's been 6 months out at a buddy's property in Indiana when I got a sheet. No toilet anywhere on his land, so I head to the little area down the road. There is a disgusting gas station and a diner where I go into the diner and the hostess tries to seat me at a table. I explained I just need to use the bathroom, but she tells me that's only for paying customers. I look at her on desperation and say stack of pancakes. And so I don't sheet my pants, took a dump and left out the back door. Guess I can't go back there as I'm probably known as the pancake pooper, the flare Jack farter. This is a fond memory. Moved downtown to our university area, got myself a sweet deal on a cheap ghetto as ducks to do, the kind that get rented out to poor students next to the area homeless shelter. 2006 rent is only $300 a month. And I'm not in school, too busy being punk rock and making just enough for a roof and partying paradise. One weekend I go to a show, get completely sheet asked, and stumble back up the hill to either get more duck stabbed or pass out at home. I decide to stop at the 7-Eleven directly across from my building. Yeah, no snacks. I grab everything my impulses and lack of inhibition tells me to, and I'm about to pay for this garbage and be on my way. Set my things on the counter and politely introduce myself to the cashier as she is ringing up my last couple things without any kind of warning or humbling beforehand. I am in excruciating pain right in my gut. A split second flashes by. I clutch and clench my legs together. My gasped bathroom. To her it was too late. 5 seconds ago I try to take a step and bam, my bowels unleash with not only an ungodly sound from my ear but a simultaneous yelp as if I were a chihuahua that have just been stomped on. I swear I have never been so suddenly sober without a cop being involved. I have shorts on. I look down and just liquid sheet down the back of my leg into my boots and starting to puddle on the floor. I just ran. No change, no snacks, no words. I lived at that spot for almost 2 years. Never went back and never even walked across their lot to get anywhere. I would walk the same way around that place to avoid it every day. I feel terrible. I used to go to the same haircut place since I was in kindergarten until I was in my teens. One day I go for a haircut and get this new fairly attractive woman. As she's starting, I start to sweat now. Sometimes when I was younger my head would get really hot and my head would sweat when I was in put on the spot. Sometimes anxiety, I guess, no idea, but it's mostly gone away thankfully. Usually a few drops of sweat will roll down my face when this happens, but not today. It was like someone was standing over me, slowly pouring a bottle of water slowly over my head. It just kept going and going. Eventually the girl mentions, "Wow, you must be really hot." I'm already very nervous and blurt out the first thing that pops into my head, "Yeah, it must be because you're pretty." I'm not sure why this is happening. You're pretty, but it's not like you're that pretty, so pretty. Much as soon as the last words are leaving my mouth, I start asking myself, why in God's name would you say that now? I'm even more embarrassed and I have to sit through a haircut feeling like an idiot, a drippy wet idiot. Actual surveillance footage of me as the haircut was finishing. I spent the rest of the haircut praying for it to be done quickly or for a BT or to come through the ceiling and put me out of my misery. The girl handled the rest of the haircut like a goddamn pro. No idea why she didn't just kick me out. She finished. I paid, gave her a huge tip, and now I Drive father to get my haircut done. Somewhere else. Music.